Hi everybody, it's RPG Grandma with another episode of Books of Artifacts. Reading time. So, we are moving on to swords. Everybody needs a good sword, a good pokey, right? Brother Samuel's Sword. This one's by Mary. Wholesale's $50, retails up to $5,000. That's a big jump. Very rare, silver white sword, very clean, inscribed for the pure of heart. When carried by a character whose soul is pure, it'd have to be lawful good or Dungeon Master's option, it gives him strength 10. Okay. We got a little picture, too. We got little sword pictures in the book. I don't know. Would that be plus 10 to his strength? Or just, gee, you have a strength 10, which is pretty middle of the road. I would go with plus 10 if I were to use it. Dragon Sword. This one's by Dana. Now it says 50,000 wholesale, 75,000 retail. Rare, fighters only. Sword with dragon's head pommel. The sword has a special attack mode. When it is pointed at any target and commanded slay him, the sword flies through the air and attempts to pierce the victim's heart. The victim must save on dexterity each melee round at a -2 when the sword succeeds, regardless of AC. If it misses, it will continue to attack until it's destroyed or succeeds. The sword will attack only one victim per command. If the owner commands it cease, it drops to the ground, inactive until he picks it up again. Range on the initial flight and on the seize command is 10 feet per level of its owner, but at DM's option, it can follow a fleeing victim indefinitely. Then we got a little quote. Kin of a chap wot add a bit o' swearing terrible oaths. Was admiring these swords when uttered at last words, slay me if she ain't a beaut. The first cut took him in the throat, and so that's Mr. Humphrey Tappercoombe telling the story. I still have no idea what accent I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, Gaff's Pulaski Sword. This one's by Mary Ann Ben. Wholesale's 50, retails 80. Rare Hoax, Jeweled Sword, and Scarab Fancy. These swords are custom made by the Gaff, Dino, Zemzek, Gordovanich, Nostrovich, Delovich, Pulaski. Hey, we finally found out what the initials are for. He's got a long name. They are extremely gaudy, the scarabs and hilts being covered with brilliant jewels and tracery. When the sword is drawn from the scarab, the blades will burst into flame. The flame is a soft blue, occasionally other colors, which will last 4 plus 1d4 rounds. The blades are constructed from a soft, mossy steel, very cheap, -1 to damage, and a 5% chance to break when used. And the jewels are cheap, zircones, and colored garnets. The traceries are plated brass, as are the hilts. Inside the scarab is a small flint and steel mechanism, which provides a spark when the sword is drawn. The lining of the scarab is soaked with a flammable oil. Occasionally, chemicals may be added to change the color of the flame. The Graf's Pulaski declines comment on the purpose of these, but rumor reports that, to date, several hundred orcs have traded their souls and their services to the Graf in return for one of his swords. An equal number are reported to have fled and terror for other unspecified reasons. The Graph is a high-level cleric who holds objections to killing any creature. Editor. So we learned a little bit about the patron of the museum. I would like to put an end to the rumors that I dislike paladins, particularly those who slay dragons. I have presented each and every dragon-seeking paladin of my acquaintances with one of these special swords, and have done so without charge. Graph, DZG&D, Blavatsky. We got another quote. This one is something else. Chase brave employment with a naked sword throughout the world. Herbert, the church porch. All right. Gramercy sword. This is also by Marion Ben. Wholesales, 5,000. Retails, 30,000. Very rare trap. Pure gold sword. Magically strengthened. The sword is +3. Fine engraved lines run across the blade, and a very close examination shows they are numbered from 1 at the points to 24 at the hilt. In fact, it is marked like a ruler. Whenever the sword damages an opponent, the user will receive the same amount of damage from the opponent next round. Oh, yikes. I could continue with swords, or we could take a look at something else here. So why don't we do... Oh, let's see. This is going to require... Might want to just do the drugs and potions separate, because I've got to explain all the little stuff that they've got up here. So I guess we'll do another sword. Gyrene sword. This one's by Mary. Wholesales 20,000, retails 30,000. Rare, a fancy jeweled sword. To all except illusionists, this sword is non-solid. Hands go right through it as though a hologram. Only illusionists can pick it up and swing it. Now that's cool, something for your illusionists. It does double damage to illusionary monsters and normal damage to normal illusionists. To all of the creatures and objects, it is non-solid, even when wielded by an illusionist. That's different. So this does bring up, when we're going through all this stuff, when you're looking at modifiers, whether it's a negative or a plus, or affect something, how high you're going to let those things go in your game, which is something you have to decide. Are you going to max at +3s, or are you going to go for it and do +10s, that kind of thing? So it is something to think about, and it depends on your game mechanics, because each edition of D&D is a little bit different on what's affected by the pluses and negatives. So something to think about. Or Arduin, very different. So you do have to think about when you're importing something in, whether it's from new material or older material or from another system, how to create the effect you want and then adjust it for your setting. It's very important. Adjust it for your setting. Just throwing that out there. Moon Sword. This is by Ben and Dana. It retails 100,000. Wholesale 75,000. Very rare, long sword with moonbeam blade. This sword is a +5 to hit. If hit, the target must save versus magic at -10 or cease fighting immediately. Effect lasts 1d10 turns unless attacked. The sword does no other damage. The blade appears to be formed of moonbeams and will vanish when the moon sets and reappear at moonrise. The handle is formed from the gray, porous stone, pumice-like stone. Well, that's a cool one. I'm going to end it there, and then we'll do more swords next episode. And then it looks like, how many swords I get through. And then eventually we'll move on to drugs and potions. What kind of cool stuff is out there? Cool ideas people had. And then furnishings, which whoever owned this book before me, they liked. It's got little numbers. They were clearly using the furnishings. And then eventually we'll get to jewelry, amulets, rings, the rings of power. So we're making progress eventually to the end of the book. So everybody have a great Tuesday. Stay awesome. Like, subscribe, comment. Think about when you're adding any kind of anything into a game, how it's going to affect your game, and how much of the game, how much do you want it to affect the campaign world, the setting, the game, the player characters, the monsters, etc. And it's okay to make changes to any idea. It doesn't matter who put it out there. So if you're playing 5e and you got something that's official WotC, 5e, whatever, still ask yourself those questions before you release it in your world. Because you can always make something more powerful, but it's harder to nerf it if you put it out there and the players really want to use it. Just letting you know. You can always create, a more powerful thing, but downgrading the power levels of the effect of something, that can be a little bit trickier. So it's better to do that ahead of time. And another thing too, which just doesn't get into, but maybe I will on a separate episode, how to make low-level magical items cool again. There is a way. There's like multiple ways, actually. So some ideas about things to think about that was in some of the older material that's kind of gotten lost along the way, I think. And mechanics that you could employ that actually makes something gradually become more powerful. So, at any rate, everybody have a great day. I hope you're enjoying those crazy things from this little book. And like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Bye.